Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Freaky Fast Broadcasting on Thursday night. Tonight, it's the Stars and Stripes Racing Series, race number 10, prepared for action. Last week, got to see June White get into victory lane for the first time this season, but we try a little bit of something different. We go across the ocean to Japan to go see how the drivers are going to be handling the Rising Sun 150 at Twin Ring Motegi, a track that was designed after some Japanese engineers got to see what Darlington was like in the States. And for some drivers, they feel like there's a small sense of Darlington with the fact that you've got the egg-shaped course, and others say it feels a little bit closer to Gateway, but ultimately it's the unknown, the Gen 4's high horsepower on a track that is slippy, slidey, and drivers are learning on every single lap. Can't wait to give you all the action here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Zach Hall. Currently, the drivers are underway with qualifying as they just finished practice. It's James Lowe on top of the board, but Zach, certainly a track we've covered before in other leagues. It's kind of become the new rotational track for drivers to test out, but tonight is going to be an interesting one, being here at Twin Ring.
It's about to be very fun to watch for sure, Sam. This is such a unique track. Like you said, it's compared to Darlington, where the engineers from Japan went and seen the Darlington Raceway in South Carolina, and they're like, oh, we're going to bring this back to Japan. And I love the integration they had with this track too. It's had some amazing races over its time, and even like you said, a lot of our leagues lately have been kind of testing the waters at this track. So it's cool to see an oval that's, not traditionally on the NASCAR schedule be a part here, and especially an international track like this. It's very, very different. I think the only other international oval we have is the Monza Oval, and that's not very usable for racing in a very serious league situation. So great to see some international oval racing.
As the drivers are testing out this track, again, learning each and every lap. The main reason I say that is almost every driver I've talked to, they've said that they just purchased this track on iRacing either yesterday or today. With this track being such a wild card, every lap you're going to learn something different. If you've gotten the right knowledge from maybe watching a YouTube channel, maybe you could go and advance in positioning. But currently, right now, it's Diego Valle who's found a little bit of extra speed, but the driver to watch out for going to be Joshua Robinson when he crosses the line, as that 30 machine was the fastest during practice, and hoping to beat out the 36.284 second lap time, as Thomas Ogle trying to maximize his speed as one of the highest pole sitter award winners so far this season. The 11 exits out of turn number 4, hoping to beat Diego Valle, as Joshua Robinson's going to be a little bit too slow potentially here. Cross the line with 11 seconds left, and it's Thomas Ogle in second. Joshua Robinson finishes his time, and the 30 machine taking the pole for himself.
To the top of the board for the 30 car, Sam. What a job by him, as it was literally in the last few seconds before it closed out our qualifying session. Way to do it right there at the last moment. And I'm not surprised. That 30 is always good at these unique style tracks.
He really is, and the learning and evolution and growing of this course is going to be the big factor we continue to talk on. But the field, much smaller, because we said a lot of drivers have not tried out this track. A lot of drivers said, you know what, maybe I'll step aside from tonight's race. So only a total of 20 drivers going to be attempting Twin Ring this evening. And the league talked to the admins on their decision of coming to this track, deciding to shorten the distance. Usually when we go to a 1.5 mile course, we're running 133 laps. Tonight, much shorter, only 96 laps. No stage break, no fast repair, and there will be 3 extra sets of tires in pit road. As your starting grid, we'll be starting like this. Pole award goes to Joshua Robinson. Diego Valle will be starting in second. Thomas Ogle third. Fourth is going to be James Lowe. Kyle Bowling is going to be in fifth. Sixth is Ross Tatum. Scott Rickard in seventh. Last week's winner, June White, in eighth. Ninth goes to last season's champion of Andrew Hess, and Dylan Grimm going to be starting in the top 10.
In the 11th position, it's going to be Christian Lawson in the 30 machine. 12th is going to be held by Joshua Altice. 13th here in qualifying is going to be the 7 of Kyle McCoy. 14th is going to be Jason Gratton. 15th position is going to be the 24 of Brian Lynch, with 16th being the 25 of Nate Lynch. The next row is going to consist of 17th with George Kovacic, 18th for Chris Worrell, and last 2 cars on the field, 19th and 20th, rounding our field, are Zach Kreitz and Brian Burchett.
with only 20 drivers, expecting this field to be smaller, and could we get another race that can go caution free? But after watching practice and previous times watching leagues around this track, Zach, that's looking very unlikely just because of the state of this course with this car. It's going to be a difficult challenge all throughout the night, even as the run progresses, on top of having full tires on these first couple of laps.
It will be very difficult for sure, Sam. If they can pull off the feat of going green here, even with just 20 cars, that's going to be a feat to be pulled off because, again, this is the unknown, as they would say. These drivers are all entering into something that, yeah, they might have had practice laps here before, but they haven't been in a race scenario. They don't know how these cars are going to react the farther they get in the run as they start to race somebody, and that can have huge effects on these race cars. So it's going to be fun to watch who adapts the fastest and who can find maybe something that the others can't, because, again, most ovals we go to, that the traditional ones, we know the little secrets, the tricks, the trades of how to go fast around those tracks. This one, I think a lot of guys are still scratching their head trying to find those little things, and it may be a late race, solution that's figured out by some driver that allows them to have the speed to go up here and pull off a victory.
Yeah, and that was something that I was talking to the drivers about, trying to view my own kind of information to the drivers. Hey, this is what's happening in the past part. I know this vehicle, the Gen 4, low on the downforce, as well as high on the horsepower. So this car reacts so differently from those past vehicles that we've seen ran here at Twin Ring. But you want to take some of that knowledge and try to push it forward into tonight's race. It's going to be a shorter one, only 96 laps. The pace car about to pull into pit road. And it's time for us to go green flag racing. Race 10 in Japan. The Rising Sun 150 is underway as Joshua Robinson, Diego Valle going to be side by side. Oh no! It's already issue! Our front two wrecking one another. Wheel spins going out of control. And it doesn't matter. We're first caution before we even enter turn number 1.
So unexpected, but again, this Gen 4 car can be so quickly evil with your just, putting down the throttle, you spin those rear tires. Things can happen quick, Sam, and unexpectedly, we have seen the first incident of the night, and man, that's in a big way right there, taking out our top front row.
Just got excited going through the gears. We've seen this in other leagues. On Wednesday night, there's been races where we've seen the wheel spin be catastrophic. You don't see very often with the Stars and Stripes series, but it's such an easy thing to mess up. I mean, Zach just touched on it. The high horsepowers, it's such a wild sensation that the drivers try to hold on to.
It's very, very tough. I'd say one of the jokes that go around is all of our friends in the sim racing community, at least around us on Wednesday night, we call it VTEC. And what we mean by that is this car makes horsepower in a different specific RPM range. So as the RPMs are lower, you have less torque, but as that RPM builds, the torque curve goes higher as the power also does too. That causes a sudden burst of power, and when you get that sudden burst of power, sometimes you can feel like the grip is there, then all of a sudden you start getting all 900 horses right to the rear tires, and those things light up, and it can happen so quickly. I mean, we've seen it from one of the best, Joshua Robinson. I mean, this is a driver that I don't think we've ever seen him have an issue like this as such. So it can show you how easy it can catch off some of the best drivers.
Into pit road, going to be Diego Valle, June White, as well as Dylan Grimm. And this also, with the timing of this yellow, it kind of also changes up how the fuel strategy run is going to be looked at for this race. Because if we had taken off and had been green on a long green flag run, drivers were going to have that thought of, does this race turn into a one-stop or a two-stop? And now this race kind of can turn into a one-stop because fuel range I was given was around 45 laps. These drivers can go. And now Zach, with this yellow flag, gonna give them a little bit of extra time to work with later on.
This is going to be fun to watch with the strategy now. So interesting to hear those numbers that far on fuel, and we'll see how that affects everything and makes these strategies work, because this caution definitely can have a huge effect if that is the case. So we'll see how they line up, because right now I think they're also having a little bit of a lineup issue here. When the cautions come out, folks, here, when we have a green flag immediately like that, sometimes the timing of where the pace car comes out and where it picks up the field can be a little bit janky. And I think right here we might have had that issue, is where we're going to have a lot of people right on the tail end of the lead lap here, and once we get to 1 to green, they're going to have to catch back up to the field.
Currently at this moment is the drivers from 1st to 8th are in line and are in the back half of this field. It's 10th on back. That's in an awkward spot. If they're going to be in front of the pace car, we'll see if they'll get the wave around to catch back up once the pace car lights go off, as the pace car lights are still on for tonight's race. We're expecting those lights to click off under the next time they cross the line, as admins are trying to give everyone that needs to have admin powers in sim to have them, just in case things get a little bit hectic on this restart. We thought that initial start was hectic. This one could be just as confusing. Now, Thomas Ogle should still be our leader based off the timing and drivers that were caught up in that wreck and had to come into pit road. Kyle Bowling should be where he's at. It's Kyle McCoy all the way back down to that of the 33 that you see in the blue, being Brian Burchett, who's going to have to try to jump in front of the pace car and get to the end of the racing line before we go green. But again, we're waiting on the pace car. Once it passes the start-finish line, hoping things get fixed. Otherwise, this is going to be a very difficult restart where they might have to throw the yellow immediately to try to reset the field.
Would not be surprised to see that. Yeah, if we don't get the wave around when we get this pace car light cutting off to go to 1 to green, they might have to extend this yellow out, then throw wave arounds, manually, and that's a little bit of a process. So we may be in a holding pattern at the moment, but hopefully when we cross this line, these guys will get the good to go around and catch up to the field. Now they will have to line up single file once they catch up, but still at least the ability to line back up, be on a lead lap, and it looks like that is happening here, Sam. They are passing the pace car.
Able to pass the pace car, taking off. There's going to be one driver stuck 1 lap down, being Dylan Grimm, who spent an extra spun around. Pace car got back around. This traffic 1 lap down. We'll see if he gets the wave around. I don't expect him to be given that. So for Dylan Grimm, he'll be starting this race 1 lap down. But with the way that these cautions, in our mind, we're thinking that they could be coming out, how difficult the exit of the corner can be. We see quite a few yellows popping and blowing out here this evening. So Dylan Grimm could be back on the lead lap here very quickly, as we'll try this again. Another restart. Zach, like you said, all those drivers just got the wave around. They're going to be on the inside in single file, but everyone else that's in our top route 8 to 9 stacked side by side. We'll see how this restart's going to take off, as Thomas Ogle will now be the new leader. Kyle Bowling in second. Third is going to be Scott Ricker. James Lowe fourth. And fifth is Andrew Hess, with Ross Tatum, June White, Christian Lashin, Diego Valle, and Kyle McCoy, your top 10 for this start. The initial start didn't go as well as they wanted. Those drivers that just took the wave around are just catching up to the tail end of the field as they're hitting the restart zone. Let's try a restart once again here for the Rising Sun 150. A much cleaner start for the drivers up front, and already blocking and moving in 3 wide for second place.
Exactly, 3 wide here. James Lowe diving to the inside. Scott Ricker's coming back out with his teammate Kyle Bowling there stuck in the middle. But now it's going to be Lowe, the 99, trying to move his way forward and take over the second position off of 2.
These tires going to be even more slick and cold from the initial start of the race after all that pace time, allowing Thomas Ogle to try to pull away. But here's the hard braking zone. Drivers trying to stay low, get the better exit out of the corner. Side by side for second place. James Lowe gets the launch that he wants. Bowling's trying to close in the gap, and he'll cut off that of the 05 as it's Scott Rickard trying his best to move forward as Ross Tatum pokes the nose.
Ross Tatum here looking to that inside line, going to make the move and make it stick there to make the pass on Scott Rickard, but will Rickard set him up? This track has the possibilities for crossovers, especially in 1 and 2 with how long the corner is a spot where you can really try to make that pass late off the exit. But 3 and 4, always the more interesting corner in my opinion, much more tight of a radius of a corner, and it really is crazy how much you have to actually use the brakes into that corner. It's almost like a short track.
It really is, and drivers may start on, they're thinking maybe later on, but a tire wear is much more baked in, and drivers have to be slower through the corner. You can see a little bit of downshifting through 3 and 4 to help on the exit. And Scott Rickard's in 5th place for the 05 machine. Season 2 champions trying to find himself moving forward as get Ross Tatum. Everyone's single filed out. This is what we expect to see. It's later in the run when tire wear becomes a much bigger factor on how these drivers are going to react. As you see the purple machine going wide, that's Diego Valle, and that's the mate of June White right behind.
Those two trying to make the recovery drive after getting the damage repair after that first incident. Doing a great job, both of them already able to get that far up. And the lucky case for them, also, they were able to stay ahead of that pace car and not get stuck with the wave round. So they were able to come to pit road, get work done, and still keep track position.
And as our front driver is still in line, Ross Tatum looks to be trying to set up pole set up. Other drivers on recovery runs. If you think of our pole sitter, Joshua Robinson, he is still stuck in 18th place, has not been able to make any big moves just yet as our top four, all pretty stacked up on top of one another. Thomas Ogle was hoping to pull away, but he looks to be getting ran down slightly by James Golding and Tatum.
It looks like they have closed the gap down slightly, and I wonder if Ogle maybe deploying a little bit of saving here and managing the tires. As this track, surprisingly, with how high speed turns 1 and 2 is and how low speed 3 and 4 is, this track has tons of tire wear. You're having multiple different issues here. You're heating up the fronts here with a slow speed corner like this, then overall heating all 4 tires through 1 and 2 with the high speed corner that it is. So it's a track of definitely finding your groove in the 2 different spots. And it looks like Ross Tatum's already finding a groove. He's looking for 3rd.
Tatum found the better exit out of turn number 4. Now Golding not even worrying about that pass. He'll give it up quite easily, fall back in line. Try to get a better launch out of turn 2 for the crossover move. Slow tries to close in on Thomas Ogle. Ogle searching for another win after his dominant performance at Bristol. Open at a similar situation where he finds himself leading the most laps and in victory lane. Ross Tatum seems to be on a completely different mission from most. He took them a little bit of a slower initial fastest lap, and he's been working ever a bit slowly. One of the fastest drivers on track is this 21.
And you heard last week in his interview, he talked about how he's been trying different strategies. He's been doing things off the wall and trying to go for those, and it's really caught him out on a lot of these tracks, and it seems like he's going for it now as he's up in that top 3 positions. But riding on board with the 3 machine, Christian Lawson here, up 2 spots from where he started up into the 9th here for the nice solid start to his night here in the top 10.
Christian Lawson trying to get himself his best finish of the season. He's finished 10th twice this season, and that was at Homestead and Dover. Trying to get himself a bit higher. Even a top 5 finish would be incredible for this 3 machine. Trying to make the push to make the playoffs, as the playoffs after tonight, 5 more races still to go before we set our 12 drivers that will be running for a championship. And the playoffs being so close, and almost all our series are inching closer and closer. I know on Monday night, the ISRC's drivers are about to be starting their playoffs. On Wednesday with the WSSR, they're just 1 race away to figure out who's in or out of running for the championship. It's Tuesday and Thursday that find themselves pretty equal in thinking, hey, let's have 15 races for the regular season before the playoffs. With that extended couple of races, gives chances for drivers to have an opportunity to run for a championship, where Joshua Altis, one of those drivers who finds himself 13th in points, just outside of that cut line, needing a solid day today in 11th.
Altis would definitely like to have a good run here tonight, and he's had those sneaky runs this season, and even on Tuesday nights too. I tell you, this driver always seems to find that strategy to give him track position, put him up in the points paid positions when it all comes out down to the checkered flag. And right now, up already 1 spot from where he started, but looking nice and methodical right now in the 37-second bracket. So a little bit off pace from compared to our top 10, but maybe this is a little bit of a saving effort from him as he's right behind Kyle McCoy, who's got that 23rd. Dylan Graham, who's a lap down behind him.
Dylan Graham being 1 lap down, it's going to be a frustrating feeling for the driver that qualified 10th. Technically would be in 11th position currently, but instead needs a caution to get back into this race. In the field, kind of shocking, doing the opposite of what I was saying. They look pretty neat and tidy, but if you're right on board with the drivers, their hands are telling a completely different story with how they're running this racetrack.
It is very interesting actually to see that, Sam, because from the outside looking in, it doesn't really look too bad, but as soon as we hop on board here with Kyle McCoy, you can see it is just finding a slip angle in that car. It's just wanting to rotate. And that's, personally, that's kind of what you got to have, though, in 1 and 2. If you want to have a car that can turn down here in 3 and 4, with it being such a tighter corner, you got to kind of make it loose down in that end of the racetrack. And you can see even fighting it here off of 4, where the track really flattens out quickly. So these drivers are working right now, and only 17 laps into this race here. Tire wear is definitely going to start to get pretty bad here soon.
Right now, about 6/10 is the difference. Actually, I take that back, about half a second difference for our pole sitter. I mean, our runner up front, Thomas Ogle, where he's running. Our pole sitter up to Joshua Robinson has moved up to the 16th position. Still dealing with some heavy damage and frustrating for the 30 machine where he's running. The three-time champ, Kyle McCoy, settle in, see where he wants to run as we move back up front. And seeing the pack of drivers fourth on back into this grouping where our last season champion and season 2 champ running with one another being Andrew Hess in the 54, last season's champion and season 2 champion Scott Rickard as the 54 looking for the better run out of the exit of turn 2 and finding the better run as Scott Rickard had to back off his pace, getting too close to that outside wall.
Andrew Hess up into the top 5, and that's great for him. And here comes Diego Faya. I mean, he just sends it into the corner there, somehow makes it stick. A little bit out of control, but gathered it all up. And it just shows the talent from the 68 to be able to go in that fast and keep it together. But looks like I have to settle back behind the 05 for the moment being. Maybe he's going to take another look here down the one and will do it. As Faya trying to fight forward. But the one thing I've been sitting here watching, Sam, is you were watching Kyle McCoy on board there for a moment. I noticed he clutched the car down into turn 1. And you talked about fuel mileage, where we were right on the edge of that window with that caution. This is interesting because you had Valle and White hit pit road. Those most likely got a little bit of fuel put in that car while they were on pit road. They may be sitting in a very good position, especially with how well the previous history of them saving fuel has been.
Yeah, for Diego and June, I mean, they were not in any position. Oh, June gets into the outside wall in the entry. The best is up. Scott Rickard gives him the opening for Caution to close in the gap. And simple, just the mental mistake there of letting the 09 drift too far out. But one of those things of it looked like for Diego Valle and June White, they were taking this initial run pretty gently, not trying to push their car, maybe mistaken with the sinking of fuel. And now they've hit the go button. It's time to take off and try to race those drivers up front.
And we just watched where White got into the wall like that. It is so easy to do that with this race car. It seems like when it grabs the wall, especially these walls that don't have safer barriers on them like that, it really is a ton of friction that just sucks the car in, and it's hard to pull it off the wall. You can see sometimes incidents where drivers pull it off the wall, and it slows them down so much that the driver behind them is trying to miss them, and it causes a wreck. So it's something that I think you might see happen a few more times here tonight, but yeah, just a little slip up from the 09 is the 3 here. Walshin looking to maybe take over a spot from Rickard here.
Walshin's been running decent quick times. He's been about 10 slower than our leaders, but only about a half a tenth slower than the drivers ahead. Just has to find that little bit of extra grip or hope for a mistake. As we saw a couple laps ago for the 05, have a chance to grab another position. You know, when we come to wildcard tracks where drivers are not traditionally going to, it's always interesting, and unpredictability is a better word of who's going to show up for that race. Is it going to be someone who's a middle of the pack runner, or could it be someone deeper in the pack that just has been training and practicing for this one race, knowing that this could be their one chance to lock into the playoffs?
It's always fun to see on like a unique track like this, because you can get those scenarios, Sam, where you have a driver that doesn't, run the greatest at the traditional tracks, but just has maybe that practice time or just some innate ability to find, speed around these unique tracks, and you can have that surprise driver. But currently at the moment right now, I feel like we got our cream of our crop up in the top of the field here, and they're definitely showing that they're adapting quicker than others have been, but still plenty of time in this race to adapt and get used to this very unique oval.
Certainly is, and there's kind of a massive drop-off on speed from 12th back to the grouping that we're watching. Chris Worrell back to JC Grattan, Kreitz, and for Brian Lynch. These grouping of drivers running about almost half a second slower than the drivers ahead of them. The rough fastest run has progressed as we're halfway through. We're expecting pit stops to come down for these drivers, and always trying to learn and grow as a driver. I was talking to Nate Lynch and how he was feeling, and Brian Burchett coming into this race. Both just purchased the racetrack yesterday, so they didn't have a lot of time to practice. I was talking to them about, how do you prep for these races? They say, hey, when we come into these races, yes, we know we're going to be back markers. We're just here to have fun and enjoy the racing. And we only get really the practice session the hour before the race starts. That's our practice session for the week. And They are having a blast out there on track. Mainly, it's just survive and make it to the end of the race for the 25 and 33.
When you come to a track that you just purchased, like you said, a day before, it's a lot of times surviving, especially when it comes to a Gen 4 car. I mean, you're putting one of first off, a very difficult and technical track with probably the most difficult oval car that we have currently in the service. That is a recipe for some type of mistake to come up, and if you can just get there tonight, like they're saying, they'll be very happy. As we're watching Kovacic right here with Ryan Burchett, the driver that you said that you talked to alongside Nate Lynch, and looks like these two are starting to get into a battle back here. They're about 20 seconds off the leaders. They're having a nice little battle back here.
I know, it's like, when you're running races, I hope that you might have someone that can race around and have their own little small goals to take with. And George Kovacic, Ryan Burchett, usually a driver that's in our mid-pack and the tail end of the group, battling for a top 20 finish. When we have our full field here, we have a great deal of 65 of George Kovacic. As a driver having a mistake in front of them, very aggressive slowdown is 8 of Jason Bratton, who got into the outside wall off the exit of turn 2, wasn't able to get off that wall until about the middle of the backstretch and lost over 3 positions in an instant. And that 8 is going to be struggling for the rest of the race. Any type of damage here. The aerodynamics surprisingly very necessary on the front stretch.
Very much so. These long straights, these long corners, especially 1 and 2, tons of aero needed. And even 3 and 4, you want as much downforce to get that car nice and planted when it slows down for this lower speed corner on this side of the track. So any aero damage you get, it's going to be felt, and it definitely hurt the right side of that 8 machine pretty good. And it was one of those cases where, again, you get stuck to that wall and you just can't get off it. As you see Grattan here in that right front fender just tore up right now, and he's just going to have to figure out how to get through the rest of the night with that damage and hopefully get it fixed up here at some point if we do get a yellow. But Kyle McCoy right here in 10th position, Sam, he's got kind of no man's land, about 2 seconds back from Washington, about 2 seconds up from Maltese. He's kind of just riding by himself.
And for some drivers, they prefer this all by myself type of racing action. You're not the stress of driving around you. You're more so just taking in the knowledge, running around. You want to feel the most comfortable, and currently it's looking great for the 7 machine, as drivers up front starting to show a little bit more fight against one another, as the battling going on for 4th, 5th, and 6th has been growing. They've been around one another for this whole entire run, but Diego Valle as well as Andrew Hess looking to have a little bit more aggression. And for the lead, Thomas Ogle, James Lowe, they are just nose to tail. And the question is, when will James Lowe be able to show any type of fight, or is the 99 the strategy call of save fuel behind the 11?
Well, I've been watching this battle heat up for about the last 10 laps. The 99's been quicker here and there for a few laps, and it's just allowed him to get very, very close to this 11 machine. And it's gonna be an interesting case here. Is Ogle saving out front here and just trying to not really build a lead and just keep hold of this lead, or does this 99 have the pace to get around him? I think it might be the case where the 99 has it, because this 11 is starting to step out a little bit, going a little bit wider on these corners, and that's opening the door for this 99 to possibly have an attempt here to get to the inside.
A massive mistake. Chance at it, and also one of the drivers seems to be who was aggressive in the early portions of this run, falling backwards, is Ross Tatum, who has fallen now from 3rd place all the way back to 5th, now 6th position, could be even more, as the tires have drifted away for the 21 machine. And showing tire wear is still a factor when they come to a track like this.
And one thing I saw from that, Sam, is it was the 54 Andrew Hess who actually had a moment there coming off a 4 there. He got to the inside of Ross Tatum, and that outside groove did not work down here in 1 and 2. I mean, immediately it was able to pull Bowling and by, and now even June White by this 21. So Tatum from 3rd to 7th in just a mere 2 laps.
And 1 and 2, we were just talking about it before we went live on the broadcast. It's kind of interesting to see the different lanes and ways that you're attacking the corners with this Gen 4 compared to, I think back to the ISRC Truck Series when we watched drivers at that course and some other leagues that ran at Twin Ring, is the way that you attack each corner as into pit road looks to be the 2-stop strategy call for Ross Tatum.
That it is, lap 32, that is exactly on the dot for if you want to run a 2-stop strategy. It's 32, 32, 32 all the way throughout this race, and we'll see if that works out for Tatum, because I think some are going to go and try the one-stop, Sam. I've been watching a few. I think that's on the mind of some drivers out there.
And as all that drama was going down, James Lowe has made a pass for the lead for the 99 over Thomas Ogle, and trying to pull away is the 99 machine, who's just found a comfortability with the clean air as Thomas Ogle now pulls into pit road for the 11 machine.
Ogle also going to look like to do the two-stop strategy here. So very, very interesting calls being made all around the racetrack. And even looking at the pace here, I don't know if the two-stop, it's probably not going to work out that well compared to a one-stop if these other drivers can, because we're not seeing crazy amounts of fall-off. We're only seeing about a second and a half of fall-off, and that's just not a lot to gain for that two-stop strategy with the advantage of the new tire. So we'll see if it works out, but right now, Lowe continuing on. I wonder if he's been able to save enough fuel even in second.
That's the big thing. He was right on the back bumper of Thomas Ogle for so long. I'm curious if he was utilizing the track to save a little bit of fuel, but that 99 was going to have to save a lot to try to make this stint work. While on the other side of things, you had Diego Valle as well as Jim White, who came in under that first initial caution on lap 1 and came into pit road, topped off on fuel, decided, hey, let's just get a little bit of help and assistance on this first stint. That might be enough to help us on the second push. Ultimate goal, can we get to lap 48 to 49 is the ultimate goal for these drivers.
It really is, and looking at the thing, I mean, if they can go 45 laps on fuel, if that's what these guys are hearing for about a fuel run, then that is a little bit stretched out for them, of course. But again, June White, Diego Valle, they come to pit road, they got a little bit of fuel, I'm sure, while they're in their boxes there, and that is going to be a huge benefit for them, because say they can stretch it out to around lap 50, 51. If they get all the way to 51, that's only 45 laps to go in this race. That makes it much easier in that final run to make it work fuel-wise.
And it is getting very dramatic in 5th place because the drivers that just pitted for tires are on top of one another. Ross Tatum, Thomas Ogle trying to get by Diego Valle, almost making contact through 3 and 4. They'll stay in line and trying to get by the teammates of Diego Valle and June White. Side by side, going to be losing time is the 09. But this aggression by the 11 and the 21 who just came into pit road, they have to push. They know that all of this is banked on if they can gain all this time back that they're losing by coming into pit road. It's going to put a lot of risk on later on in the run.
They can't save anything, that's for sure, Sam. They have to go 100% all the way out for the rest of this race, and we'll see what it equates to them for. But right now, Ogle and Tatum taking advantage of these new tires, and you can see they're quickly making progress, but it's not as fast as what you would normally see at some of these other tracks where we see 2 to 3 seconds of fall off. Only about a second and a half here so far tonight, and I think that's going to be a benefit to that one-stop strategy.
Another driver hitting pit road is going to be Christian Lushin, who's going to get service done. As James Lowe still leads the way. Ryan Burchett also looking to be slow, might be thinking about pit road for himself, but as these drivers continue to tick away each and every lap, the drama now turns into who's aiming for the one-stop, who's aiming for the two-stop, as it looks to be Andrew Hess, next driver in line to hit pit road.
See, now Andrew Hess hitting pit road, so it doesn't feel like he can make it into that one-stop strategy window. He's just going to take it a little bit longer than Ogle and Tatum, and I think it's smart. If you are still in the two-stop strategy, you can't make the one-stop work. I think it was better to stretch it out here just a tiny bit due to the fact that we did have some caution laps. It wasn't a true 32, 33 laps. We went green while Ogle and Tatum hit pit road. It was actually a few caution laps that included in that, so we'll actually have to run a few more under green.
And as seen, Thomas Ogle getting by James Lowe, as well going to be seen the 21 Ross Tatum trying to set up his path on the entry turn 1. Drivers are stretching their fuel. Now tires could be a big factor to watch out for. I was watching the teammates of June White, Diego Valle. They were having a big slide against one another on the entry turn 3 2 laps ago. And they're going to be in a spot where could their tires last all the way to the end of the stint. As 21 Ross Tatum's good. Entering pit road's going to be the 24 of Brian Lynch. Getting service done, but majority of the field still out on track. Again, they need to stretch this fuel out for another 8 to 7 more laps.
We'll see if who can do it right here is riding on board with Kyle McCoy right now, as he's going to be having the 3 of Christian Lawson who just pit come around his outside, and McCoy was one of the guys that was very aggressive with saving. I watched him from the very beginning, clutching. So McCoy, I think, is the one that we need to definitely watch out for here of the drivers that didn't pit under that first initial yellow to be able to stretch this possible in fuel.
A bit road, another driver going to be Zach Kreitz in service time. But Kyle McCoy, I'm curious on the amount of time that he's lost with the saving fuel compared to June White, Diego Valle. Is Kyle McCoy really stretching this out to the full capacity, or is he going to be giving too much time away with this chance of trying to save fuel?
That's the thing. I mean, you think about it, if June White and Valle have, with the fuel they just topped off with, the difference that they have over Kyle McCoy and the amount of gap they have over him, which right now is looking like about 5 seconds to the 68 and the 09. That's going to be a tough gap for the 7 to try to make up. So, yeah, he's saving a ton, but again, he's losing time in the overall scheme of things, where other drivers like the 09 and the 68 who pitted, they're in a much better scenario. But we don't know how far low bowling all these other drivers can go, because maybe they have started clutching here at some point too. I mean, this track definitely is open for that in turn 1 with how long the entry is into the corner.
Welcome to the unknown. Drivers that spot the track came into race number 10 for season 7 of the Stars and Stripes. Didn't know what this car and track combo was going to bring us. It's been a lot of single lane. One part of the racetrack you're looking for is to stay low through the corners. That white line is your friend. But for everyone else, it's all about the fuel strategy. Was it a 2-stop strategy call to win this race, or was it a 1-stop? Currently, we got about half the field aiming for the 1-stop. The other half is game already started their 2-stop strategy calls, as we are a few laps away from seeing some of these drivers aim for the 1-stop to come to pit row. As driver shed, Ross Tatum getting a little bit frisky on the backstretch down into turn number 3 as the 21 takes a 2-for-1 meal on the center of turn 3 and 4.
And this is the interesting thing. This is for position right now, as these drivers are guys that haven't pit with Ogle and Tatum who have pit. So it shows you they are making up some good ground. But again, these were drivers that were about 20 seconds off that lead at one point. So again, that gap was nearly not as large for them to close in to get back by them for position. But right now you're seeing the 68 of Valle there. He's getting passed by a couple of these newer tires, and Valle's times I've watched them, they've been very slow. I wonder if he's gone into major fuel saving.
It's tires. He's been sliding through the center of 3 and 4 the last couple of laps. It has just been getting worse and worse. The tire temps are way too hot for the 68 to feel comfortable out there on track, and it's through 3 and 4 that he's losing majority of this time. And you see there, center of the corner, it doesn't look comfortable for that Diego Valle. As June White, on the other hand, has been just marching his way forward as the 68 big swing in the back of our camera. The shot there, as Chris Worrell had to come into pit road a lap earlier. This is the window where drivers are now into that concern spot of we don't know what the fuel run is going to look like from here on out. If you can even stretch to that number we've circled to make sure you can make it to the end of this race on a 1-stop.
That's exactly right, Sam. And I mean, if you look at it, I mean, Worrell there, he had to pit, just a lap ago, and he didn't hit pit road there, and it can make things where it's very, very close for a few of these guys trying to stretch it out far, because if you do go 48 laps here, I mean, you had caution to help you. So, 48 laps under green flag conditions is a completely different ballgame. So we'll see if that, throws these guys for a loop. But I think, if anything, you want to at least try to get to 50. That puts it in a very, I think, manageable range of 46 laps.
Oh, we talked about how Kyle McCoy was trying to extreme save his fuel. Diego Valle, who turned on the wick about 15-20 laps ago, 68 over the radio, hitting this time. Not going to be able to get to lap 50. That has got to be a heartbreaking moment for the 68 machine. June White's able to stay out for another lap. Into pit road is going to be our leader of James Lowe, who was not able to hit that mark either, but stretched it out at least for an extra 2 more laps than what we were expecting, with Valle following in soon.
Yeah, at least able to go 47 laps, but that puts him at 49 for the end of this race. And remember, that was 47 with caution laps. So I just don't know if I see 49 laps being doable unless you just go into major fuel conservation mode. But let's see what Bowling and White do. Will one of these two have to flinch and come to pit road? I think Bowling might have to at this time.
Pulling over the radio, Kyle McCoy over the radio, both pitting this time. June White on the outside lane is going to keep the speed rolling as he's able to extend it for another couple of laps. And June White, we think back to last season, he was the hero when it came down to fuel strategy calls. The 09 might be back in that same seat where he's just feeling comfortable, able to save the fuel and tackle on trying to get to that lap 50, 51 marker to make sure he's good on fuel to make it on a one stop.
As soon as we talk about fuel strategy, the first name that should come to anybody's mind at Stars and Stripes is this 09, like you're saying, Sam, because, I mean, this guy has just been known to do very, very spectacular things when it comes to saving fuel. And right here, a very interesting line that he runs there in 3 and 4 with him being up the groove like that. It almost made me think he was going to come to pit road with a wide arc into the corner, but he'll continue on. And right here is his lap 50. Again, this is the best case scenario because we've seen some guys go 46, 47 laps. If he pits now, it's 46 to go.
And as well, able to stretch the fuel out this far. Gotta give huge kudos to Scott Rickard, but I think Rickard might be going so slow that he might be running out of fuel is the 05. He almost got collected into a wreck with Diego Valle through 1 and 2. The 05 is crawling so slow, he just gave up over 2 seconds, almost 4 seconds, as he's trying to creep into pit road.
And we'll see, yeah, he'll be coming into pit road this time, and that's an excellent job for him because, again, we got to think about this. This right here is going to be complete lap 50 for Scott Rickard. June White, this next time around, will be 48 laps complete for him. So that just shows you that, yeah, that little bit of a pit stop there, this is going to help June White stretch it out much farther. And again, I think he's just in a prime opportunity here to stretch this thing all the way out as far as he can go, and he'll be in a great spot to make it to the end of this race.
I mean, it's 19 seconds, the difference between June White, Thomas Ogle. Ogle needs to close in the gap as soon as possible, but into pit road is going to be the 09. Same for the 33. This should finish out the cycle of drivers going on this first green flag pit stop run. We've only had one caution. It was the immediate start when drivers wheel spun. And now the pit cycle, those that are going for the one stop, others going for the two stop. It's now all on the line on who's going to be in the better positioning. As for us here, Freaky Fast Broadcasting, we have crossed over the halfway part of this race. And with that being done, with the first cycle of pit stops, we're going to throw to a quick commercial break as you're watching the Stars and Stripes Racing Series, the Rising Sun 150 here at Twin Ring Motegi. We'll be back right after this for more racing action. They're 5 wide behind for 5th.
Oh my, the 5 wide here, this ain't gonna work. They make it last, bumping and banging to the end. They're beating banging for the lead. Sora still with the shot here, coming off a 4. That's it.
It's
Bottom line, here it comes. I know Carter gets wrecked. It's gonna be that Nick Crawford. The 74 gets through somehow, and they just completely demolish one another. Trinity driving down low, drifting up, trying to be the stealer. Here he comes, Cedric Hunter. He does it. He steals it.
But he somehow drove it into the corner to wreck it.
Oh, they wrecked! They wrecked each other! The top 2 bounced into one another, just too much of side drifting off of, and they gotta be careful. Oh no, and the 4 demolishes in the 28. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Stars and Stripes Racing Series. This is race number 10 of the season. We got 5 more after this before the playoffs begin, but tonight's race, it is the Rising Sun 150, and drivers are in the middle of pit strategy calls. We got about half the field aiming for the one stop, the other half going for a two-stop strategy, and some drivers are going to have to make the audible call from changing from a one-stop to a two-stop. How is that gamble going to change up tonight's race? It's a different track with a brand new car, and that's why the laps are a little bit smaller, with us only doing a total of 96 laps. And this race has been a wild one on the picking and choosing on where drivers are feeling the most comfortable. We've had one caution tonight, and that was the immediate start of the race with major wheel spin with our pole sitter of Joshua Robinson running into that driver in front of you, being the 68 of Diego Valle. And Valle's on one of those drivers that's on a one-stop strategy call, and he's pitted about a lap or two sooner than I would expect someone to pit. We'll see if this strategy's going to work out, as Thomas Ogle, who was our leader, just came into pit road to finish out his two-stop strategy.
And that sticks to the 32-lap run that it looks like these guys have been doing. Ross Tatum stretching it one more for himself this time, so taking that two-stop a little bit longer for the 21 team. But I'm interested to see, like you said, Sam, who has to switch. We had a few guys that were a little bit short there to making the one stop, in my opinion, doable. And there's gonna be a few that are gonna have to switch off of that strategy onto the two stop. And I think we might be looking at one of them. If like you said, I think he pit about 1 to 2 laps earlier than what a few of these other guys who are looking a little better off, such as Kyle McCoy, Scott Ricker, and June White, of course, who looks the most well off when it comes to that. But it's going to be interesting how they change their strategy, because that's a tough thing to do. When you stretch it out the first run, you got to shorten up one of those next runs because that first one was so much longer. We'll see how they elect to do that and gain back the time they lost.
Well, Ross Tatum's the most interesting one of them all, because he's closing in on Andrew Hess, or at least was trying to. He's now losing time, now hitting pit road, extended out on being on track for an extra 2 more laps than at first initial stint. Interesting by the 21 trying to make that change up on his strategy, as Andrew Hess now makes his call into pit road. In the lead of James Lowe, June White in second, Diego Valle going to be in third, having the lap car of Dylan Grimm, which is very unfortunate for Dylan Grimm. Was forced to go 1 lap down after that first caution. Never was able to get that lap back, and now is just banking on this race maybe to have a caution flag to get his lap back, but he's only down 27th position. It's not looking good for him to be able to fight for a chance for a better spot. But as this race is concluding, we do want to give a major shout out to our amazing sponsors that help out the Stars and Stripes Racing Series, because they help us be up in the booth and also help the leagues out on a weekly basis. Starting things off with ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing. Instead of just hearing the sounds, why not enhance your listening abilities to feeling the sound? Give me your Gamer 2, and once you attach it to your seat or racing rig, it allows you to feel the sounds instead of just hearing them. And you might be wondering, where do I get my racing rig? Well, that's when you go over to Next Level Racing. Next Level Racing have a wide range of selections for racing rigs, from budget items to the more expensive setup, and get your racing going on a next level. Go to nextlevelracing.com to get yourself prepared for your racing to be enhanced even more. As the race is continuing to clock down, about to be 26 laps to go when we have James Lowe cross the line. Cal Bullington, 4th place for the 44, trying to make his march forward. But Zach, still these drivers, there's a little bit of them that's still waiting on that final pit stop, and it's crunch time. Because I would imagine you pit now, or you just hope for a yellow flag.
You're exactly right, because if you're having to switch off that one stop to the two stop strategy where you couldn't stretch it as far on the first one, you're either going to pit within these next few laps, in my opinion, with about 36 here, or around 26 laps here to go. I think that will be a decent range for them, but I think some others are going to try to stretch it out and maybe hope to catch a caution, because they know if they switch to this two stop now, all the time they lost by stretching long in the beginning, it's going to be tough to gain that back. And it's tough too, because you're in the car making all these decisions. I think that's one thing, again, I like to bring up about sim racing, is not only are you most of the time the driver in your car, but usually you're the crew chief, making your decision calls. And that is not easy to do when you're going around here upwards of 180, 170 mile an hour.
No, because the only times you really have moments to think is on the straightaways, unless you have a driver in your mirror, which then you have to be completely focused on how to react to their movements, defend their movements, and it can get difficult at times. Well, thank you so much to everyone that's watching with us here on Freaky Fast, broadcasting on your Thursday night of the Stars and Stripes Racing Series, as more drivers entering pit road with Zach Wrights making his final stop of the evening. As Dylan Graham going to be passed by the 3 machine, who's already made his final stop, trying to march forward and get as many positions as the 3 can grab before this race is over. But a huge shout out to all those that are watching again on our Thursday evening. We broadcast 4 nights a week, Monday through Thursday, as Monday night's going to be a good one to watch. The ISRC Truck Series start their playoffs at Talladega. It's going to be a wild one. Tuesday, it's the Full Send Racing Series, still trying to finish up their regular season for playoffs action starting in about a month. Then Wednesday night next week, Charlotte, the final destination of the regular season. Who's in or out of the playoffs? That hunt is very close on drivers that need points to make their win count, and drivers that are trying to point their way in to have a chance to run for a championship. Then right here Thursday night next week, drivers are getting set up and prepared for the final push, as they're going to be heading to Martinsville to see how these Gen 4 cars can work at Martinsville. I gotta say, Zach, next week has the potential of being a chaotic mess, but who knows? Stars and Stripes, they're known for green flag runs. They might just switch things up and flip the script.
They very well might, and I will say also, this car, you would think at Martinsville, it drives very difficult, but I have myself done some laps there, and it's actually kind of calm and tame for driving. I think the concern that people have, of course, is these rear bumpers and the front bumpers and how they pick each other up. So that will be the biggest issue they fight, I think, but we should, if anything, if these guys can stay patient next week, we should have a good show on our hands.
As battling the 415 place is given straight away to Christian Loschitz. Brian Burchett just gives up that spot. Doesn't have the tires to fight for this position, and the 3 going to be making the pass on the 24. I can see Loschitz doing a great job as he's getting by all the drivers that are in that precarious position where they're going to have to make the audible call if the one stop not working. 3's moving forward. Ross Tatum is moving forward. The biggest mover of those that are going for the 2 stop going to be Thomas Ogle, 25.5 seconds off of the leader, James Lowe, who will not be able to make it to the halfway marker. They're all aiming for June White. That of 22 seconds off between second to that of Thomas Ogle running back in 9th place.
This is going to be tough for Ogle to close that gap down. I mean, that's just a huge gap, and right now, even lap time wise, about a second faster. So yes, there is technically availability there to do it, close in that gap, but I mean, he'd have to be a second faster each and every lap, and a little bit more than that even. So that's gonna be tough to keep throughout the whole entire race.
We've got ourselves 20 laps to go before this race is done. Still a lot of action where the drivers are pick and choose where they're going to feel the most comfortable this evening. India make that call in the pit road. Jude White coming off the win last week at Kentucky. Going to continue that momentum after a win at a mile and a half. This later swing the drivers are aiming for. It's going to be crucial. James Lowe coming off the win at Miami. Both these drivers up front show that they might be the cream of the crop on drivers to try to hunt for that championship once we get to the playoffs. As playoffs going to be starting all the way after Talladega is done in the middle of October. As drivers set and prepare, only 12 drivers make the playoffs, so you have to make sure that you're running well up front if you want a chance to hunt for the championship this season. James Lowe stays out for another lap. The question is for the 99, when is it go time to hit pit road?
That is a huge question for him for sure, Sam, because he stretched it decently out, but he's not going to be, in my opinion, in a position to stretch it to that 1 stop. So I think him, including Valle here, who pit 31 laps ago, are going to need to hit pit road here at some point. Now, they can wait all the way up to about 4 laps to go in this race, but that's going to kill any finish for the race if it does stay green. They might just be electing to do this because they know if they do have to pit, they're going to be in a terrible situation anyway. So it's one of those situations you got to really pick which thing you want to lose to. So it's going to be very, very difficult for these drivers. But I think June White, he's just saying in second right now, about 2.7 seconds back from low. He's just cruising, thinking if we can just keep this green, this should be a very easy cruise for him.
And for June White, trying to get his second win of the season, James Lowe continues to ride up front after making the pass on our pole sitter of Joshua Robinson. I mean, that one simple mistake of wheel spin at the start of the race really did throw away any chance for this 30th machine to have a great finish here tonight.
It really has kind of hampered any good finish for him. And the pace was so good from this team, and that's, I think, one of the things that hurts the most losing from a strategy like this is knowing that you had a very, very strong race pace, but it didn't matter at all because the fuel was just so marginal on the window that it didn't play out for you. But Kyle McCoy is one of the drivers here in sixth. I think he could be looking for around a third to second place finish for this, but I think the concern for him is the drivers like Thomas Ogle, who did do the two-stop strategy, only 2.7 seconds behind behind McCoy here. That's showing you how much time that McCoy's had to give up just saving the fuel. At the end of the day, this is actually going to come back around to hurt him.
Yeah, and that was something I was touching on right before taking the pit road at lap 46 was the fact of, well, if you're giving up so much time, it's going to enable those other drivers that are just going full bore all race long to run down and catch you. And with the 7th machine still searching for that first win this season, the 3-time champ has been having a lot of ups and downs this season. He's had 3 top 5s, 6 top 10s, and his best finish so far this season looked to be a 6th place finish, a 3rd place finish at Michigan, then got 4th to start the season off at Daytona. It's just been bouncing back and forth on how do you finish up front, get that win. So we haven't really seen that winning pace just yet from Kyle McCoy.
We really haven't, and it's very surprising in my opinion because it feels like always when we have those tracks that were rear limited and very much on that side of things, he always had such dominant pace in the previous pass, but it seems like it's been a tough time for him getting up to speed in this car so far. But we know he always likes to close out season strong. As long as he can make the playoffs, he'll be right there in contention. As we're checking out Joshua Altice, who's also on that same pit strategy as Kyle McCoy. He's gotten overtaken by Thomas Ogle now to drop back to 8th here, and soon it'll be Andrew Hess and Ross Tatum right behind him.
And that Joshua Altice, one of those drivers that we talked about who has been in the most recent weeks kind of shocking us with some of the good finishes. Best finish was at Bristol, finished in 2nd place with an odd strategy that of staying out a little bit later than everyone else, got the timing of the cautions to fall in the favor of the 94. So they were able to get a couple of these top 5 finishes and those 3 top 10s. And for the 94, I feel for Joshua Altice, when it comes to these races, it really is down to can the yellow flags fall in his favor? If the yellow flags don't, it's kind of looking like he's aiming for a top 10 of 10th to 15th place finish. Is the 94, but when their coast cautions line up perfectly, even on Tuesday nights when we watch Josh race, it almost seems like the caution lines perfectly. A top 5 is always looming for him.
It really is. He's been good with the strategy. So look here, Andrew Hess going by George Kovasic for a second there. I thought it was Thomas Ogle, his teammate, but Hess he's got about 3 seconds behind Ogle here with about 2 lap fresher tires. So I don't know if he'll be able to run down Ogle in 6th there, but Hess still having I think a very solid night where he needs this. This defending champion has just had, in my opinion, kind of a mediocre run this season. It's been anywhere from 8th all the way back to around 15th position. Has never really found his feeding. He's had a few great finishes to races, but just never had the speed and long run speed, especially he showed in his championship winning season. But I think this should be a good confidence boost for him here. He's had a very good run here tonight, and right now 2nd of the drivers on the 2-stop strategy.
Yeah, it comes in tonight 10 points. Is Andrew Hess. A couple of drivers that are inside of our top 12 in points not showing up here tonight. Brian Chu, probably the biggest notable driver of those not show up, which Chu's been having a great run. Hoping that he can come back next week with a great rebound. Stays out of our top 12. But for Andrew Hess, 3 top 5s, 3 top 10s, so it's kind of a make or break type of a season of either he's finishing in our top 5 or he's outside of it out of his 9 starts so far. And but like you said, we got more consistency where we were harping it and kind of always praising the 54 on his long run pace and always consistency up front. It was only when he got wrecked at Michigan I could think of early last season was the only racetrack that it seemed like what was going to be another great finish kind of backfired for himself.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, it did seem like it played out that way for him. But right here, we're watching the 68 of Valle here, third position. I still think yet to pit for the 68. Just I think playing the same strategy as the 99 low, where he's just trying to maybe hope for some type of yellow as he washes way up the track as the 6 of Whirl, who's a lap down, gets by him on fresher tires. But the 68 of Valle here, he's about 7/10 ahead of Scott Rickard, who's closing in, and Rickard pit 3 laps later. The 05 has a lot more options on the table for him.
That he does, as pick and choose where to go. That pass with the 6 getting behind you by a Chris Whirl, looking like maybe a 13th to around a 10th place finish. Looks to be the window based on who's going to be forced to come into pit road. That's Dylan Grimm in 14th position, trying his best to stay out and just grab as many spots as possible, minimize a race that really did not go his way from the drop of the green flag. And now just settling in 14th. Not a bad recovery run, but at least we know he's going to fall to Chris Whirl. The question is how many other drivers are going to get by this 23 machine with 7 laps to go. It's all now down to James Lowe, who's been just staying out on track. We know for sure he's not going to be able to have enough fuel to stretch to the end, but June White is already on that back bumper, about 0.7 seconds back, and most likely going to be passing this 99 now as he hits pit road. Thought it was going to be in 3 laps. Instead, the 99 could not wait any longer. Pit road called.
That it did, Sam, and 42 laps on that stint. I think he just said, I stretched it long enough. It just doesn't seem like we're going to get a yellow. And if he gets a yellow flag now after this point, he's going to be very upset because, like you said, he could have probably stretched it another 3 laps at least. But I think here he just wanted to stop the bleeding that was going to be after this pit stop here with all the time he's going to lose. So tough ordeal for Lowe, but has that win already this season. Could kind of go for that strategy. But I think he also pulled some strategy on pit road, the 5.7 pit stop.
Just topping off on fuel and then going to get back out there on track. Is falling to 10th, most likely going to fall down to 12th is the positioning for the 99 as June White 09 machine, winner of last week's race, trying to go on a tear for himself. As we look at June White's season when it started out, really was looking for a better start. Started this season off in 18th at Daytona, then you went on a pretty good spree of 3rd at Las Vegas, 2nd at Michigan, finished 13th at Dover, and then it's been an up and down of 7th at Pocono, 21st at Bristol, missed out on Nashville the last 2 weeks, 3rd at Homestead, win last week, and now a win here tonight. The consistency has started to show up for the 09 with 4 laps to go.
Looking for back-to-back victories, and that's definitely the consistency that he wants to have here, especially getting down to this mid portion of this regular season here. This is a perfect time to start building some momentum for that final push to the end of the regular season to get ready for the playoffs. So the 09, you throw fuel strategy into the mix, he's a tough one to beat.
Certainly is. Next 3 races on the schedule after tonight going to be heading to Martinsville, like we talked about earlier on, then heading to Atlanta. We're still waiting for the confirmation if it's the new configuration, the super speedway like Atlanta, or if it's the old one. I believe they're going to the super speedway version. And if they're doing that, we've seen the other cars not be extremely loose. Become extremely loose over time with tire wear on the super speedway style of Atlanta. With this car, with how loose it can already be, it's going to be a combination of madness to watch out for in 2 weeks, and then head to Richmond in the end of September before it's the final push of who's making the playoffs. As 2 laps to go for June White.
Only 2 laps here remaining for him, and he just wants to get to that white flag. That's all he's caring about now. As he got into the outside wall once again, it seemed like there. So a little bit of a slip up on the front straightaway there, as we've seen him have that a few times, but he's got a big enough gap. It's not going to matter here if he gets that white flag.
That it's not. And for June White, what a run it's been. Hitting the back stretch, the battle for second looks to be more of who's going to save better fuel, Diego Valle, or will it be Scott Rickard? Rickard's looking good on his fuel limits. Diego on a very scarce position. As the exit of turn 4, up on the flag stand, only saw the yellow flag once here tonight, and now it's the white flag. Out is it your freaky fast white flag for June White, the 09. Just has to hit his marks, and a victory is solidified.
Excellent run for White all night long, but his teammate Valle somehow still putting along out there. He's going to look to make it 49 laps on this last stint, and that's 49 green laps. That would be intense.
Incredible, and the fuel-saving run. We knew the teammates, 1-2 currently, have always been known at the best at saving fuel. Came to a new track, tested it with the new car, and the Rising Sun 150 is going to go to June White in the 09. Back-to-back wins this season, and the momentum swing is really hit as the battle for second place. Diego Valle makes it work. 49 laps in the 68, keeps it in second place.
Wow, that's impressive to see from that team. And tell you what, 49 laps under green flag conditions, that is tough to do. And even our leader James Lowe, he pitted on the same exact lap as Diego Valle there, and he's going to be maybe questioning if he could have made it.
And the questions continue to roar of who's got enough fuel left in their car. June White might be the only one who could say comfortably of those that went with the one stop, say, I've got enough to maybe do some burnouts. The 09 sits and parks and waits. It's time to burn it down in Japan. As June White, congratulations on your win. For us up in the booth, we will step away for the post-race show. We'll talk to our top three: June White, Diego Valle, Scott Rickard, the Spotlight Driver, right after this. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the post-race show for the Stars and Stripes Racing Series. Race number 10 for Season 7 is now in the books as the drivers tested their skills in Japan at Twin Ring Motegi. The Rising Sun 150 winner is going to go to the 09 of June White, going back-to-back this season. As we head to victory lane, June, it's Sam and Zach up in the booth. Congratulations on your win here tonight. Man, how are you feeling after this one? June, we'll give you another chance. We'll let you figure out your microphone situation as we're in victory lane with our winner here this evening. June, congratulations on this win. A different track and a different car. What a run for yourself.
Yeah, just had a blast. This is a really unique oval. It's I was affectionately calling it, I guess. I don't know if affectionately, but I was calling it a mile-and-a-half short track, and that is really what it is. It's weird, but I liked it. It was a good change of pace. I wish the field had been a little bigger, but had a lot of fun running tonight.
Yeah, it was a very impressive run from yourself in the '09 as always. And when the fuel mileage came into the picture like that, I mean, was it always a thought in y'all's head with it, with the way the length of the race was, or did that caution really put it into your hands?
So I think going into the race, we were thinking probably two stop is faster just because it would have been like 5 laps to save, I think. Maybe a bit less, maybe 4. Um, but honestly, I think we were wrong about that. Like, if you see, I think Ogle ran a pretty good two stop, and he still finished 16 seconds behind us. So I think one stop was probably just faster. The tire degradation wasn't there, maybe because of the slightly slower corners than usual. And yeah, we just one stop was dominant strategy. We figured it out and got a good 1-2 for the team. And
Uh,
for the record, would have been 1-2-3 if Dylan hadn't been 1 lap down there.
It certainly would have been. I mean, Dylan was looking very fast there tonight. Um, June, after tonight's race, we've only got 5 more races left until the playoffs. How are you feeling about these next couple of weeks coming up? Go ahead, heading to Martinsville, Atlanta, and Richmond.
Oh, you got a couple of short tracks coming up. As you may remember from last season, were not my strong suit, but we've definitely put in the time in. I don't know if we'll have a race winning car, but definitely a competitive one. And just excited to be part of the league, to keep putting the time in, and I'm glad our season is starting to turn around after being like 10th in points the whole season. So a couple really good results for me for the team. So really happy about that.
It was a great run here tonight, June. Congratulations. And before we officially let you go, the floor is now yours for any shout outs.
Yeah, just shout out to y'all for. I did not get to catch the broadcast today yet, but I'll go back and watch it. So I'm sure y'all did a great job, as you always do. Incredibly professional broadcasts with incredible energy. Just privileged to have y'all here, broadcasting the league. Shout out to Stars and Stripes. Very I would say unorthodox wreck, not really characteristic of the league, not really characteristic of Joshua. I know he like I know he's not feeling great about that, and I know like he's a much better driver than that. I know he's super fast week in week out. I know he'll come back very soon with a much better finish, and just great racing. Love to have love to be in this league. Love to have my teammates here, and just privileged to be part of the league.
Well, congratulations, June, on your second win this season, and good luck surviving the short tracks in these next couple of weeks.
Thank you, Sam.
Well, as we go from victory lane, let's talk to June's teammate. Gonna be the 68 machine of Diego Valle. Diego, congratulations on second place. Certainly a different race than what we were expecting, but coming away 1-2 with the teammates. How are you feeling after tonight's run?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good for what it's worth. I know June was just talking about it, but I know Josh feels bad. These things happen sometimes. The gear ratio is given a lot more torque than I thought it would have. I got a little bit loosey goosey on that initial start as well, and I backed it down a bit, but I guess Josh wasn't able to. But these things happen. I feel bad for everyone who was affected by the wreck, but yeah, it's not representative of him. He's a great driver. Yeah.
Well, Diego, man, great run here tonight. 1-2 with your teammate, like we were talking about there. But man, you had to save 49 laps of fuel there on that last run. I mean, that was something we didn't think was going to be doable. And even James Lowe, the leader of the race, he'd been on the same lap as you. He actually had to come down to pit road. So how did you actually make that work out and keep that much speed?
Yeah, see, I for a long bit there, I was kind of refusing to recognize the one stop until I actually did a little bit of basic math in my head, and I realized that there's no way these guys are catching us, even with the tire fall off. If I just clutch in at the 200 marker every time into 3, and at the 150 every time into 1. But yeah, just I had my feet dancing across the pedals for like 49 laps there, and we take a second place any day of the week.
I mean, Diego, both yourself and June have been really stepping up your game and looking like the top 2 drivers of this season. How are you guys feeling like for these next 5 races? What are you hoping to learn or take in as knowledge before the playoffs begin?
I should do more practice. Is one thing I know I should be doing. These playoff races are going to be tough. Everyone's going to show up with practice. I can't just, you know, um, do it halfway. I have to, if I intend on winning this championship or going far into the championship, I have to, show up every week well prepared and just know how everybody's going to run and work around that.
Well, we're excited to see how you're going to be learning and growing in that fashion in these next couple of weeks. Congratulations on second. And before we officially let you go, the floor is now yours for any shout outs.
Yeah, shout out to y'all. I don't know how I haven't done this yet, but every time I've been up here, I've forgotten to shout y'all out. Y'all put up a very professional broadcast. Y'all are pretty fantastic on the calls. Every single close finish is amazing. Y'all keep tabs on everything. Midfield battles up at the front. Yeah, shout out to y'all. Y'all do a fantastic job up here. Also shout out to Stars and Stripes. Y'all put out a great show. I'm happy that we got to race Twin Ring Motegi. Great track. I've always liked it. Shout out to my mom and dad. Shout out to my siblings. Shout out to Gomez Sim Industries. They make the best wheels in the business. I got second place on this GT Max 32. Go check them out. And yeah.
Well, that will be the 68 machine of Diego Valle. Congratulations on second, and good luck next week at Martinsville.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Well, from second place, let's head down to third place, where we'll find ourselves with Scott Rickard, who, again, another one of those drivers that really had to save his fuel to make sure he was good at the end. Scott, it's Sam and Zach up in the booth. Congratulations on third. Man, how are you feeling after tonight's race as one of the few drivers that went for that one-stop strategy?
Glad I'm not having to do this track again because I'm not the biggest fan of it.
Yeah, Scott, alluding to that, allude to the difficulties of this track. I mean, the two different ends, of course, make it very difficult, but it's got to be a very awkward situation for a lot of people getting their first time laps around here.
Yeah, to me, it felt more kind of similar to like a gateway with the way the track's laid out, just a bit bigger. But this is definitely not this second race I've ever done here, and I can definitely say I don't know if I'm going to do another one soon.
It certainly seemed to be having its difficulties, Scott. After tonight's race, we've got 5 more races left before the playoffs begin. I asked the same thing to Diego. What are you hoping to learn or grow from in these next 5 weeks before the playoffs begin?
Just try to probably get more playoff points at this point. I'm already guaranteed in the playoffs with the win from Pocono, so more playoff points pretty much.
Well, that seems like a solid strategy. And Scott, as usual, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Glad I'm not racing this again. Definitely happy the dog's gonna be here to make me feel better after this race.
Well, we also say thank you, Doc, for being there for Scott. Congratulations on this third place finish, Scott, and good luck next week.
Thank you.
Well, as we end our interviews here tonight, only we'll have our top 3. We get ourselves prepared for Martinsville next week. The drivers, we heard from Zach, the car feels pretty snug, but how is the front and rear bumpers going to react on one another if you misjudge going into those corners? You're going to have to find out next week on Thursday here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. But tonight's race, the Rising Sun 150, the unofficial results, it's June White taking the top of the board, Diego Valle in second. Third is Scott Rickard with Kyle Bowling in fourth. Thomas Ogle going for the 2-stop, only able to move up to fifth with Andrew Hess sixth, Kyle McCoy seventh. Eighth is Joshua Altus, who gets a great launch for himself in eighth place for the 94. Ross Statham falls all the way down to ninth, and James Lowe going to finish out your top 10.
And as we look through the rest of that leaderboard there, all the way down the 20th, man, these drivers, some had a very tough night to start off with. That 13th place finish for Joshua Robinson, he's going to be coming back. Kind of asking what could have been. I know he, like June said, he's going to feel terrible after that simple mistake that a lot of us make, and it's an easy one to do. So I know Robinson's going to be down on that, but still, nonetheless, we'll see if he can bounce back from that heading into next week at Martinsville. But some interesting results here from tonight's race. Interesting strategy, Sam, and Motegi played out kind of the way I thought, where it was a race of pretty much coming down the strategy.
It really did on who was the two-stop, who was the one-stop, how much strategy calls are going to influence the future races. Well, you have to stick around here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting to be notified when we are going to be live for these races. What a race we had. A shorter race than expected, as we only ran 96 laps in total. June White gets the job done. But for us here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, we take the weekend off, enjoy some football as the NFL gets started. And then on Monday night, we are back to 4 races a week as iRacing Truck Series have the playoffs beginning. Full send still in the middle of their regular season on Tuesday. Wednesday, the WSSR have their regular season finale on who's in, who's out for the playoffs. And then we're right back here next week. Martinsville should be an entertaining one. Can't wait for it, Zach.
Oh, no doubt, Sam. This is it's going to be wild. I can't wait to see how these guys tackle it because, again, this series is so clean. We talk about all the time they go through and have their clean and green races. If they can get through Martinsville with a clean and green race, that might be one for the record books, especially with this race car. I think it will be drivable, especially from the setup standpoint and the racetrack. But the one thing always concerns me is those checkups in the center of the corners. How will drivers deal with the bumper being laid to that rear bumper and jacking those rear tires off the ground? Maybe at the low speeds it won't be as bad, but I do expect we're going to see a few people getting spun out.
Cannot wait to see how the energy is going to change up from a bigger track like tonight to next week. But overall, I'm going to give a shout out to June White. Congratulations on winning his second time this season. Tonight's race only had one caution at the initial start of the race, but then we went clean and green for the rest of the run. Traditional Stars and Stripes race, you could say, with the low caution laps. But what will next week give us? Well, cannot wait for it. Well, for myself, Sam Dyer, for Zach Hall, Robert Moyer Jr., and everyone else here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, thank you for joining with us. Remember to hit that subscribe button and the bell notification button to be notified when we go live with each and every one of our broadcasts, as we are live Monday through Thursday nights, giving you one race from each of the leagues that we cover. And as well, expecting content pieces. You'll be notified when we upload our top 5 finishes of the month, or our lowdown recap show, or even our cool down lap podcast, getting a deep dive with each of the drivers in all of our leagues. Cannot wait for more content to give you. Another way to help out the leagues is to like, comment, and share our broadcast. Help out the leagues and us here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Thank you so much to everyone who's already done all those amazing things to help us out. And for those that haven't, just subscribing is a big thanks as well. But for tonight, thank you for watching. We will see you Monday night, iRacing Truck Series. Get ready for the playoffs. That will be our next Freaky Fast broadcast.